I've started off, cut one half of the head so this could go a little quicker and you could kind of see the idea. Started off with a nice kind of razored bob that was cut on this mannequin originally and came in and really layered and created a lot of texture and face framing to create this bob meets pixie idea, or what people are calling a Bixie. I start right here in the front hairline, kind of in front of the ear, and take a piece to about lip level. This is kind of a face framing piece for a short haircut. So after I take that length off, I then work on from the front of the ear to the length, kind of creating an angle to push forward, and then from about the corner of the eyebrow to the length while I elevate, also creating an angle so that this starts to give a nice little kind of kick onto the face. Now you can leave it like that depending on what you're doing, but in this case, I want it to be a little bit more face framing. So what I'm going to do is come through and just use the tip of the blade and cut in little channels here to push this even more towards the face. So we've got a little bit of face frame. We've got it on this side here too. You can see this is how it kind of opens up this apple of the cheekbone that the bang can fit into eventually. And then the layering will bring out all that texture and wave. So again, if you just joined us, I'm Gerard Scarpese, craft hairdresser, co-founder of Hairbrain. We're bringing some live education to the Instagram platform. So we're going to start off with several weeks of myself demonstrating. And then we're going to reach out to people in our community that have something valuable to share. Okay, so now I'm moving behind, and again, you can see previously this was cut into a razored bob. I'm gonna at first kind of respect that bob that's there, but begin to layer through a lot. So I'm gonna take about 1/2 inch thick sections. I'm gonna lift them out close to 90 degrees, bring them forward, find the shortest piece based on where the face frame is, about the corner of the eye here. Bring this out. Basically, easier if I get the head in a natural position so I can truly read it. Now coming through with a nice wide stroke with the edge of my blade, working out to the existing length. So really dramatically layering from short to long here. And then the existing outline length, I'll be able to just freehand into what I want to get the kicks and the movement that I want. Vertical sections, about 1/2 inch. I'm going to choose to bring these over to what we call square. So I'm going to kind of work a little bit against the head shape, using a little bit more ever increasing over direction as I work my way back to the center, making sure that you can see it's very, very layered. Notice 1/2 of a triangle is sectioned out of the way on the top. That'll help me form the bangs and the layers from the top that will kind of fall over these layers in the temple. Again, another 1/2 inch section, cutting what we would call with square over direction, working from the front to the back. And that means the layers at the center back of the crown will be the longest, because we're starting pretty dramatically short, and I wouldn't want those pieces that are short next to the face to be that short in the crown, unless I was going for something really edgy and dramatic, where I'm really going for something just kind of pretty and soft. Working with the HB Pro Feather Plie razor and the HB Pro comb. This has always been my favorite type of comb for razor cutting. You can see the wide side, take nice fine sections, and the fine side to create lots of tension. Okay. Continuing through, you can hear my dog barking in the background. He doesn't always love when I don't pay attention to him. But that's the fun of working from the home studio. Continue through. And now you can actually start to see the length building. Working through. Over directing away from the center. You know, if it ends up too long, we can always come through the center and shorten it. But in this case, I don't think that it will, because we started off pretty short at the front hairline. And again, I don't want to collapse the profile too dramatically in this case. So you can see now this is building some length. My last bit, you can see how that worked on this side. I've already put some product in there, used some Bumble grooming cream and Bumble tonic, and then diffuse dried with my sock diffuser so that you could kind of see the effect there. You know, now I kind of come down into where the length is, do a little bit of twisting and razoring. I want this to be kicky and flippy. There's already a good baseline in there from the previous haircut, but between the layers and the baseline, I want to really reduce a lot of this bulk. Twisting the hair and razoring into it. Do that here, but do it really gently. Actually, first, I'm just going to kind of use some slicing just to make sure there isn't like a very long corner there next to the face. And then just twist this one thick piece here. So you can see how that instantly creates movement, texture, lightness in the hair. A little bit more tonic while that dries. Now we'll jump up into the top. And again, that's been done on this side. I'm going to separate it into 3 pieces. The first will be the fringe or the bang section, which will be held low, and then I'll progressively lift higher and higher to get the effect that I want. So here, coming through, taking a piece on the front round of the head. There's Rex in the background, getting, Kelly's throwing him some treats to keep him happy. He likes our attention all the time. Okay, so to get this rounded angle here, what I want to do with this first section is bring it forward and cut square. So I'm cutting against the head, fingers on the bridge of the nose. Now to get in here, because it's going to be my heel side, this would be very uncomfortable. I'd be knocking against her cheek. All I have to do is rotate my fingers a little bit, and I can use the heel of the blade very, very comfortably and still get the control and the angle that I want. Again, this is the important area for over direction so that we get a nice curve into the existing face frame. So watch what happens when I push that over. It folds in nicely to open that whole apple of the cheekbone. Then all this hair can kind of fill in. Got a little color stain on her. Our pivot point mannequins get a lot of lessons on them. So at one point, this mannequin had a very classic highlight lesson on it, which I thought would work with this technique. Look good, you can see that naturally moving in the direction that I want. Little split on the parting. Okay, now here's where the kind of technical part comes in. I started very low, and I want to, with every half-inch section that I peel off here, I want to lift a little higher. Lifting a little higher. And I also want to use some slicing. So that's where I go in with the front corner of the razor and create some space. Now the really important place to do this, or one of the most important places to do this, is where this hair falls over the layers. So you don't get an awkward disconnection. So I really want to come in here and gently grind down the edge a little bit. So when that hair falls over, it kind of becomes more like Velcro. Now with a little bit more elevation and a nice wide stroke, removing that excess length, and then modeling, pushing it in. There's some product in the hair. We've got some grooming cream from Bumble in there already, some tonic. For me, I love, especially with razor cutting, I love to have product in the hair for the glide of the razor so that I can style as I cut and really see how the hair is reacting.
That's a little take.
Elevating a little bit higher. Now this next couple of sections are just these last little sections. The head's curving away from me. I'm going to change my body position so that I can really truly elevate here. I'm going to get behind and I'm going to switch my hand position to overhand razoring, which traditionally can be a challenging. It's not the first thing I recommend you learn when razor cutting, but it is something you want to learn at a certain point. So again, still slicing first, then coming back through and scoping the guide through and razoring off that excess length. And again, you can see the shape here. Sometimes as I work, if I see, don't get pulled in, but don't ignore little things either. If something looks a little bit heavier than perhaps you want it to be, just kind of use the tip of the blade on it lightly. And lastly, here in the crown, okay, a little bit more visual, which is just kind of twisting. And then I'm going to put a little bit of product in and quickly diffuse dry, if you guys want to bear with me so that we can kind of get a finished result. I'm going to use a little tonic here on the bang to lightly dampen it. Get in at the root. Bumble Tonic, still one of my all-time favorite products. And a little bit of grooming cream, you know, for the type of work that I do on these textures of hair that are, you know, it's just more of like just a slight wave, medium density. Great Josephine mannequin from Pivot Point. Working through. Now I'm going to just do some hand drying using my YS Park Sock Diffuser on my Parlex dryer. All the tools that I've used here, including the Josephine mannequin, are available on Hairbrain Pro, our online tool shop, hairbrain.pro. Razors, combs, not the hairstyling products, but the tools. We've been in the tool distribution business for almost a decade, importing some of the best tools in the world. We were definitely one of the first to really bring in this YS Park Sock Diffuser, probably well over a decade ago. And I think it's really made such a huge difference in this type of drying. Using your hands instead of a brush, bending and shaping, keeping the airflow down, getting those little kicks on the edges, getting in at the root. So never raking your fingers through, but just lightly lifting, especially where I want some volume, and here at the crown. So just the idea here is it's like a pixie meets a bob, right? And I think that's, you know, kind of a place that we're at. It's, to me, it also has a very early 90s feeling of what we used to call kind of a gamine look. And we're seeing some popularity in that again. And I think, you know, anytime we can start to see some short hair being popular, it's really good for salons. You know, people need more maintenance. They'll probably need to change their color. They can't just do the same color they've been doing for years and years. So, you know, be sure to educate yourself. I mean, it's normal to be a little bit afraid of changes. But again, you can see how easy this was here. I have to be honest, this was an easy haircut. I love easy haircuts. Those are the best ones, because then you can really focus on suitability. You know, you're not so lost in the technique that you can't really connect with the person and connect with their individual beauty. So that's me personally. I always want to find the simplest way to do it. And if you get good basics with the razor, you'll find it's such an impactful, simple tool to work with. You can get shapes in quickly, spend more time detailing, spend more time styling, and more time connecting with the human being that's in your chair.
Taking pictures for Instagram.
So just moving around, sculpting, using the fingers here. You know, it's just kind of moving on from the shag. You know, I think what this Bixie trend that we're seeing is a little bit more definition in the perimeter. You know, in this case, there was already a bob cut, a razor bob that I did in another lesson a few weeks ago on Facebook. And then I just grabbed that same Josephine and said, Josephine, it's time for a change. We're going to give you some more layers. So it's that bob meets a shag, really. And a very, very simple approach. Keeping that heat. Lifting, pinching, bending. Flipping on the edges. Lifting so I can get underneath, so these roots here, I'm not lifting the roots on the bottom, I'm keeping them close to the head, but trying to get some heat in there. And then get some heat in the roots on the top while I lift. Try to get this bang dry. One of the great things about the sock, of the many great things, is that you can leave the nozzle on. I leave the nozzle on so the heat's more pinpointed. And then one thing that people are sometimes confused about, this little elastic goes around the back of the dryer. See that? So it doesn't blow off. We've had so many questions about that over the years. What is this piece for? And that's what it's for. So just getting that last bit of moisture out here. Now you can see the texture from open, deep razoring. It's just all there. There really isn't a lot of extra that you need to do once you master the tool. So I'll be coming back every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific for the next few weeks, doing lots more razor lessons. And then we're gonna start to invite some of our other friends on Wednesdays here. You know, we did Facebook Live for many, many years, and people have always asked us, why not doing education on Instagram? So we're gonna give it a try. If you guys are into it, let us know. It'll then be saved in our feed, so you can come back to it at any time, review it, ask questions. We're here for you. I just worked out with the classic coloring technique. Might not have been my #1 choice, but I think it's worked with just the classic highlighter. But if she was my client, I'd say, hey, this works for now, but I think we should go into something maybe a little bit more block coloring now that you've got all these layers in this shorter hair. So boom, and she'll come back for another appointment.
Looks pretty dry.
Finishing up with a little bit of the Goldwell Curls and Waves like hydrating serum. I love this stuff too. I think it's just sometimes after you've got a lot of heat in the hair, it needs something, you know, you don't want to re-wet it with water, but you want to dampen the hair and kind of feed it a little. And then, you know, once it's dry, I can come in. I don't do a lot of dry razoring. I tend to go to dry cutting shears or scissors and go back and use like back cutting techniques where I feel maybe I need to take off some length or encourage a little kicking. This would be, I think, the bottom of the longest piece of the layers right there in the middle. I don't want it to kind of feel like a tail. So this is kind of literally rounding the corner off in technical terms.
The greetings are so strong.
You know, just kind of really getting some final details on here. Really wanted this to kick away on both sides. That's kind of part, I think, of the trend that we're seeing here. That little bit of direction. So encouraging that not only with the razor, but a little bit with my scissor. These are the HB Pro dry cutting shears. Literally all the tools that I use are available at hairbrain.pro.